Yeah, so Kirby had a lot more 3D outings on the 3DS than I thought. To recap, Kirby Planet Robobot had an additional game mode called Kirby 3D Rumble, which is a 10-minute adventure that basically only exists to give players a taste of Kirby's moveset in 3D. It would also serve as a tech demo of sorts to a game that would release the following year, Kirby Blowout Blast. It's another small game, taking close to an hour to beat, but as an eShop exclusive title that costs only $7, that's about what you should expect. Kirby has the exact same moves as he does in 3D Rumble. He can jump, crouch, and inhale. Nothing was added and nothing was taken away, and that's fine because it's a solid moveset that works incredibly well for all the stages. That doesn't mean the stages in both games are structurally similar though, because they do differ quite a bit. It's not just more 3D Rumble, it's an evolution of it. That game had small, single-screen islands that you simply wiped out enemy waves on, and this game takes that concept to the next level. Now, there's actual linear stages, each with multiple contained arenas where you try to kill enemies as efficiently as possible. While these are the highlights of each level and feel nearly identical to those islands in 3D Rumble, the linear paths that connect them are what I get the most fun out of. They apply 3D Rumble's concept to a more traditional Kirby level. You're inhaling enemies and taking out others across the stage, but you're doing some light platforming as well, and if these are managed properly, you can keep a consistent, fast pace. And there's a real focus on speed in the game that I like quite a bit. At no point does it feel like things drag, and while sure, the arenas stop your forward progression, chaining together kills is satisfying and keeps things moving. I thought there would at least be some hidden collectibles and secrets in the game, but there really aren't. When I took a second to slow down and explore a bit more, I maybe found some additional health and that was it. That doesn't mean the levels aren't replayable though, because they really are, mainly thanks to the ranking system in place that's dependent on racking up tons of points. This is done by landing big combos, collecting all the metal scattered around, and completing the level in a timely manner. Why bother getting a good rank? Well, because for every set of levels you rank gold or higher in, you unlock an EX version of said level, and these are awesome. They're a lot more difficult, with bigger enemies, tougher bosses, and more obstacles that hurt you, and I like this challenge spike quite a bit. One of my complaints with newer Kirby games is the lack of difficulty, and these EX versions of stages address that and go all out to trip you up, and I love it. The normal versions of these levels are pretty easy though. I got a gold rank on a majority of them on my first go, but not many platinums, so there's still some room to improve, but not a lot. It really is designed with memorization in mind, as it makes it very easy to retrace your steps and wipe out enemies just as you did before. Most things can be accomplished your first time through a stage with some decent reaction time, but Platinum definitely requires a little extra effort, and so does Gold to some extent. However, one of my favorite parts of the game has got to be the boss fights. I like the ones in 3D Rumble a decent bit, because they proved a standard Kirby fight would work well in 3D, but it sucked that it was always just some bland knight dude. Here, they brought many iconic Kirby boss fights to 3D, and they're really well adapted. I think the Cloud guy works better in 3D. Avoiding his lightning obstacles was a blast and required a lot of skillfully timed jumps. It was really good. The pushy dude fight works pretty well too. I like how it's laid out quite a bit, and while it's certainly an easy fight, it's easy in 2D as well, so it's fine. And the final boss versus King DDD is another solid fight, though it's by no means better than the Cloud one. You avoid his hammer swings, jumps and shockwaves, and send stars back at him. Simple, but the second phase is really what makes it stand out. He grows into a giant version of himself, does this huge inhale move that you have to sprint away from, and has a variety of different attacks with his massive hammer. It's still pretty easy though, and while it was really cool to fight King DDD in 3D, it didn't pose any kind of challenge whatsoever. What about amiibo support, I hear you asking? Well, it only supports Kirby series amiibo and their Smash Bros equivalents. And what do they do in this fine game?
Nothing.
Well, not nothing, but they don't unlock additional levels, boss fights, or even costumes for Kirby. No, they build these statues of the characters in the hub area that come with a unique tune. Seriously? It's really lame, and I can't believe I opened my Kirby series to try them out in this game. For a cheap, eShop exclusive game, this is a very quality experience that's well worth a playthrough. The only shame is that there's still no sign of Kirby's copy ability in 3D. Don't worry though, because just a few months later, in November 2017, Kirby Battle Royale would finally have us covered there. To be honest, I had no idea this even came out. There's been a flood of similarly titled Kirby fighting games to release in the last 10 years, and I grouped them all together in my mind. Since 2014, we've gotten Kirby Fighters, Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, Kirby Battle Royale, Kirby Fighters 2, and Super Kirby Clash. Those all sound like synonyms for the same game, or at least the same series, but nope. I still couldn't tell you the difference between 4 of them, but if you're more, seasoned in Kirby fighting games, please let me know what the main differences are down below. The only one that seems at all interesting to me, and relevant to the topic at hand, is Kirby Battle Royale, the first 3D fighting game for Kirby. Don't let the word fighting mislead you though, because I wouldn't really call this game a fighting game. I consider it more of a minigame compilation. The game features 10 small competitions, the majority of which don't have a focus on combat, though attacking other players can still be beneficial. Before any of these contests start, you select your ability, and while you start off with just the sword, you can very quickly acquire a solid variety of them. You have to pick carefully though, because you're stuck with this ability for the entire contest. There's no way to drop it, whether intentionally or when you get hit hard enough, and therefore you can't inhale enemies to gain new abilities. There aren't even enemies though, just rival Kirbys and sometimes Bandana Waddle Dee. It's not like they're there and do nothing, so I'm fine with it. Your moveset is entirely dependent on which transformation you pick, and I won't lie, these transition to 3D incredibly well. Their most iconic traits are seamlessly brought to the dimension, with some necessary revisions to make them work even better. Instead of a single button simply being your attack button, with an option to charge and use it in different directions, they've made the Y and B buttons your attack buttons. B is the standard one that you can still charge and use as you normally would, but Y provides a longer range attack in most cases, and I love it. With a slightly higher focus on combat than in traditional Kirby games, it was important that they put a little extra thought into Kirby's moveset, and they did, which makes fighting foes so much more fun. And being able to pick up and throw wounded players and knock out others is such a welcome addition that really benefits this type of game. Only one contest is solely a combat arena, the rest have unique concepts that can potentially be taken advantage of with proper use of your abilities. For example, Apple Scramble, where each team has a platform they need to place apples on and a lever to pull that turns those apples into points. There's a couple trees in the arena, all of which are accessible to everyone, and by attacking the tree, you make it drop apples, which you can pick up and raise your score with. Your fighting abilities come in handy with fending off other players when they try to steal from you, or with making others drop their apples, which you can steal. Another good example is Crazy Theater, which is quite similar to the WarioWare stage in Smash Bros. The game gives you an objective with a few seconds to complete it, and if you do, you get one step closer to the win. But you're also able to sabotage other players in doing this, by knocking them off the correct answer, attacking them so they can't move until time's up, and sending them into lightning, depending on the objective of course. This makes it way more than just a 4-player brawl, it applies combat abilities to a variety of challenges, and I like that approach a lot. My favorite game though, has got to be Flag Ball. Each team of 2 has a flag, and the goal is to throw the ball into the other team's flag. It's not stationary though, anyone can pick up either flag and run with it, but they drop it when attacked, and the same applies to whoever's carrying the ball. It's super satisfying to hit the flag from afar, and there's tons of potential to make impressive plays, both of which make this such a great time. And the best part is that all of these minigames can be played online, with the one person still playing them. Of course I know him, he's me. And also via download play with nearby friends, which is a really nice option. I could see myself getting so much out of this game as a kid, playing it on the school bus or in summer rec with my group of friends, it would have been so good for that. The only major downside is that there's, once again, not much content in the game at all, and the same 10 contests are only entertaining for an hour or two. Now, there is a story mode, which seems like it would provide incentive to continue playing, but it doesn't. The plot it contains is as bare bones as it possibly could be. Kirby and Bandana Waddle Dee team up for some reason and enter the Cake Royale, a tournament held by King DDD himself. Why does Kirby want to win this? Well, because the first prize is any cake he wants, of course it is. After that opening premise, there's very little story. All you do is talk to this beam dude, play some minigames for points, eventually reach the quota for that league's qualifiers, then win more minigames and move on to a higher league. It gets stupid repetitive way too quickly. It's the same couple games over and over again with nothing done to make them feel much different than the last 8 times you played them. They're all enjoyable the first couple times, but there's not enough for them to support a 4-hour story mode. I wouldn't call the game bad because of that, but the amount of content it has is not worth the $25 I paid for it. Was it cool to see these iconic Kirby transformations in 3D? Absolutely. And was it fun to play around with them in some short minigames? You bet. But I can't recommend you go and buy it for yourself to give a try, especially with the Forgotten Land right around the corner. It's gonna do all of this and way more in a more traditional Kirby fashion, which is gonna be so much better than this, so it's best to just wait it out at this point. Okay, now that's all of them. I apologize for missing these in my original 3D Kirby retrospective, but you guys let me know and I was able to make this updated video, so thanks. If you missed that video by any chance, be sure to check it out there, and if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, consider hitting the button there. And please, have a great day. I'll see you later. Hold up, they just dropped a new trailer for the Forgotten Land this past week and it just keeps looking better. Literally, this game is gorgeous, and the multiplayer they just showed off looks like such a good time. Mark it on your calendars, ladies and gentlemen, it releases on March 25th, 2022. I'm so excited.